Now I would like to introduce you to George Emerson, Partner Relationships at LinkedIn, to kick off the presentation.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Has everyone had a coffee? Some of the great food that BMO's put out for everybody here. Isn't this a beautiful building? Awesome. The Globe and Mail, where I used to work. Love the Globe and Mail. It's always been a great resource for business information for me and for a lot of Canadian business people. So I'm really happy to be here in the Globe building and partnering with BMO and our peers in social selling, people like Twitter and Facebook and Google. And I'm going to talk a bit about how people use LinkedIn. It's a fairly general overview, but I want to get a bit of a survey first. How many people here work for what would be defined as a small business? Because this is a small business summit. Okay. How many people are involved in decision making, either as heading up a business unit within that small business or as a partner or an owner in the business? Okay. So you guys have tons of time on your hands, right? So I really appreciate you taking the time to come out and learn a bit about how to use LinkedIn. I'll tell you, as a one-time small business owner who would lie awake nights sweating about how we're going to make payroll and how we're possibly going to fulfill that order, you know, the crushing, wow, that's really loud next door too. I'm going to have to drown them out. Can we turn it up? The crushing success of getting a big order and then wondering if you're ever going to be able to meet it. I've been there. I've also been in the position of trying to penetrate an area of sales, a channel where I had no previous existing relationships at all, and having the confidence, or what my mother would call the arrogance and stupidity, to think that people were just going to take a meeting with me because we had a fantastic product or our service was better than everybody else's. So of course they're going to meet with me. And it was when I met the limits of my confidence that I discovered why LinkedIn was actually useful. Because in 2003, when I had a business that we had some investors who were also investing in these other crazy ideas in Silicon Valley, and one of them was investing in this thing called LinkedIn. And he told me what it was. He said, it's a social network where you share all your contacts and you build relationships with people. And I said, wait. It's like one of those Friendster things where people are just posting pictures of themselves. It's like MySpace for business. Are you kidding? And he goes, yeah, it's like that. I said, and I'm supposed to load my profile up in there and load in all my contacts? And he said, yeah, that's the idea. It's great for networking. And I said, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. I'm in business development. I'm in sales. My entire net worth is my Rolodex. Why would I share my Rolodex with people? That doesn't make any sense. So out of an obligation to this investor, I created a LinkedIn profile and promptly never used it, ever, until 2008 when I was in a different startup and we were trying to penetrate a really mature, closed segment, industry segment. And nobody would take a meeting. Nobody would seem to open this amazing collateral we had for this fantastic product, which we knew was world-changing. And then somebody said in a meeting, I'll connect you on LinkedIn. And the light bulb went off. I was meeting with really smart, up-and-coming American business people. And people were, instead of like, okay, I'll take your card, they were connecting on LinkedIn. And I thought, oh my God, that's why I want to do it. I made a connection with somebody here in Toronto, actually. We were a US-based business, but we were trying to get into the very mature consumer electronics industry. We were selling the world's most expensive iPod dock at the time. And I made a connection to a guy you've probably heard on the radio here. He does a lot of advertising for his business at Bay Bloor Radio. So I made a connection to Mark. Mark had a profile on LinkedIn. And all of a sudden, every other Mark in the consumer electronics industry in North America saw that I was connected to somebody that they valued as a leader in the business. So having a connection to that person got me a connection to another person, all these people, decision makers, people that I wanted to sell to. And thanks to LinkedIn, that led to 1,811 stores, doors as we used to call them in retail distribution, which was double what our goal was to get to in 2 years. I got to that in 1 year, including the Apple Store, including Crate and Barrel, and all kinds of other premier retailers that we wanted to be in. And that was solely because of LinkedIn. So when the opportunity, when I sold my share in that business and moved back to Toronto, and somebody said something about LinkedIn, and so had just joined LinkedIn, I said, what? LinkedIn has an office in Toronto? And they were just growing then. And thanks to LinkedIn, I reached out to that friend of a friend and found myself working with LinkedIn Canada. I started growing here about 5 years ago, pardon me, about 7 years ago. 5 years ago, growing quite significantly. We're now up over 150 people. The area that I work in and that my colleague Beth Mason works in is we're primarily concerned with marketing, with helping businesses reach other businesses primarily. LinkedIn is primarily a business-to-business advertising medium. But we also work with our colleagues who sell subscriptions to business people, who use it for things like talent management or good old, HR for recruitment, and also for social selling. There's a tool that my colleagues in another line of business have called Sales Navigator. Beth and I are not experts on things like our recruiter tools or our Sales Navigator tools. What we are expert on is understanding how businesses can use LinkedIn with small budgets or with medium-sized budgets to market. But I'm going to talk today about just using LinkedIn overall. So this is the overall agenda idea. It's like why use LinkedIn, why we can help you make your profile shine, because your profile is that first asset that you have on LinkedIn that allows you to build those connections, what I talked about in my experience of going from not using LinkedIn to all of a sudden having all kinds of business success because I networked assiduously with people on LinkedIn. And then how to add value when you're using LinkedIn, how to build on that connection by giving your business a profile as prominent as your own personal profile and your employees' profiles, understanding your audience, and the power of sharing valuable content. And content can be something as simple as a post I was just trying to make where a picture of this beautiful building and the beautiful layout and saying good morning to everybody in Toronto and sharing that out on my network and connecting to, say, somebody at our friends at BMO. I understand that one of the senior vice presidents who we do business with, Justine Fadak, is in from Chicago. She used mention her. The same way you do on Facebook, you same do on Twitter. Mention people, connect to people, identify them, call them out, and a conversation begins. We'll get into that. But just so you understand LinkedIn, there are 14 million profiles of Canadians on LinkedIn. What makes LinkedIn a bit of a contrast to the other networks is that these are all professionals. Everybody on LinkedIn is in either a post-secondary education role and somebody at their institution of education has encouraged them to have a LinkedIn profile because they understand how important it is to finding a career or building a network, or they're already in a job somewhere. There's 500 million people like that on Earth. The OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which is a really great source of knowledge and data about the world's businesses, says there are 700 million professionals on the planet. Professionals they define as people who work in white-collar jobs, people with more than a secondary education, so some kind of post-secondary education. So those are basically the knowledge workers of the world, and every 5 out of 7 of them have a profile on LinkedIn. So when you're trying to network with other business people, that is a pretty good place to start. If 5 out of 7 professionals on the planet are on LinkedIn, that's a good reason for why LinkedIn can be used for you. Why are these people coming to LinkedIn? They're coming for professional advice and knowledge. There is a thing on LinkedIn called LinkedIn Learning, for example. How many people have ever seen a prompt to take a course? So LinkedIn acquired a company called lynda.com, which is the most successful micro-learning, tutorial programs. Those are all now connected to anything you're doing on LinkedIn. You're going to see prompts when you're using LinkedIn on your desktop or on your phone suggested courses for you. Some of these are free, some of them are available on a subscription basis, and they're incredibly valuable in terms of learning things. One of the most popular, for example, is how to create better pivot charts in Excel, or even more basic things in Excel. Some of them are on courses on how to do social selling better, how to use, for example, ads on Twitter, ads on LinkedIn, ads on Facebook. You can learn all those things from courses that are there inside LinkedIn Learning. And when you're on that phone or on your desktop, you can just do a search, a course on this or that. That's a big reason why people are coming. People come for peer recommendations. You know, a lot of business is done because somebody says, I really think that if you need somebody to help you with your marketing, if you need somebody to help you with your logistics, I know this person over there. And people are recommending each other and endorsing each other, and that's a huge value to you as a business person, whether you're the one being recommended or whether you're recommending somebody. We also get people who come for industry news. Has anybody ever heard of a popular brand in business news on the internet called Business Insider? So Business Insider is a great aggregator of a lot of news stories being published by places like the Wall Street Journal, like my colleagues, my former colleagues here at the Report on Business and the Globe and Mail. Business Insider did a survey in June of 1,740 people, and they asked how they view various social networks. One of the most surprising insights that they got is that people, of the 1,740 sample of Americans, those people viewed LinkedIn in the same way. They didn't view it in the same way as Twitter or Facebook. They viewed it in the same way that they view the Wall Street Journal. So it's a place where people go for business information and business networking. Right? It's not a great place to go and show off your vacation in Greece, although why not? Go ahead and share it if you want to show off in front of all your colleagues and business peers what a fabulous holiday you had. But that might work a little bit better on Instagram. But however, sharing stuff about the course you just took on business analytics and how everybody in your company is now trained to the max and the latest SAP knowledge, etc. That's not going to play well on Instagram. But it's going to play really well on LinkedIn. Right? Sharing your professional knowledge and connecting to people who have similar interests is how you use LinkedIn really successfully. So here's some examples of the kind of trending news that's going on. We're trying to do a lot more surfacing of the things that other people are talking about. When you start to search for a subject, you'll see on the LinkedIn app. How many people have the LinkedIn app on their phone, by the way? I highly recommend you get it. It's still just using a regular browser and going to LinkedIn.com on your phone is going to give you a very similar view. The app is just that much more powerful, and it remembers more about the things that you're interested in. So it helps surface more relevant information. And these news items can be really useful for you in terms of having something to share, the kind of content you might want to share, so that you show your relevance to your peers in the professional network of Canada and beyond by having something to say about topical news of the day. Right? There's also a great opportunity for you to share your knowledge and to publish, to post, and to engage with people by adding value to their day, by sharing information that you have that's particular to your particular industry or to your particular function. So people like Richard Branson publish like crazy on LinkedIn. He considers it his best social channel. He gets amazing feedback. This is an example of a small business person who's gotten a lot of traction. And the reason why people in business find that they're getting a really great resonance with sharing content on LinkedIn is because look at the difference between what is a trending topic in any given minute, right? These are the kind of subjects here that you'll see on what we call personal social networks, right? These are the trending topics you're going to see on LinkedIn. So it's a world of difference. You're not going to see a lot of people searching up things on, for example, leadership accountability on Instagram. And from that Business Insider survey, the reason why people are doing much more content sharing on LinkedIn is because of the level of trust when it comes to trusting whether LinkedIn is a safe place to post. In other words, when you post something and have an opinion, that someone's not going to call you a nasty name or try to humiliate you, or denigrate you because you have a particular perspective on something, that's just not acceptable on LinkedIn. You'll find people debating, but if people are harassing or trolling on LinkedIn, flag them, point it out. And we have people very actively looking for that kind of uncivil or incivil behavior, because on LinkedIn, it's like you're at work. And it's not like you're at the bar and you can say whatever loudmouth thing you want to say. You're expected to behave the same way you would in the workplace. And we don't tolerate trolling. And when our members report it, we actively go out and warn those members from not behaving in a non-civil way. And we'll just turn them off if they're really annoying. That's something that other networks have just woken up to. And what the kind of degrading atmosphere that gets created in our society, not just on the particular platform, but in our society. And the dangers of that are something that people who, for years, have just let trolling behavior abound without any check, without any balance on their platforms, and now are regretting that kind of lack of human oversight. Another reason why we've been so active on it is because LinkedIn, unlike any other social network, has a majority of its revenues that come from people who pay for subscriptions. So when I started the Globe and Mail, if someone wrote a letter to the editor and said that I find that your reporter's argument in this thing to be not only unfounded, but et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we get some angry things. If there were 3 or 4 letters where people were saying, I'm fed up with this way you guys are covering this, we're going to cancel our subscriptions, man, you heard from the publisher right away, right? Publishers care enormously about subscribers because subscribers have paid for the information. When people pay for something, you know it's valuable, right? So the fact that we have the majority of our revenue comes from subscribers means that we care a lot more about the behavior and the content that's on LinkedIn. And that shows with the kind of trust. And then people are using LinkedIn to really make a difference in their bottom line. When they are looking for leads, for example, there's lots of great opportunities, and I encourage you, if you're doing marketing on the internet, you've got to test every particular channel. LinkedIn is a channel that, for small businesses, has turned out to be a terrific source for qualified leads. It's not huge volume of leads that people are looking for. They're looking for qualified leads that actually convert into paying customers. We find that people are generating revenue metrics that sometimes are double what they can find. You know, I would never say don't do AdWords. I would never say don't do Facebook ads or Twitter ads, but measure and test and compare to know what you're really getting. Because volume is one thing that you can get on mass personal networks, but quality is a highly defining characteristic. The quality of a lead is the most important thing. Not that, look, hey boss, I got 278 leads. Well, that's great. How many of them are actually really interested, or how many just stumbled through? How many are actually interested in what it is we're buying? And you can look at the quality of the leads because you know what these people are by the basis of their the information they share in their LinkedIn profile. I'll talk a little bit about what's in that profile and why that matters. So, does anybody have a profile without a photo? Okay, so everybody here has a profile on LinkedIn, all right, and everyone has a photo. That's really good because you are 14 times more likely to have positive engagement on LinkedIn if you have a profile. If you just have that little ghost of an avatar, it just gets people wondering why. Include some terms that explain what it is you do in a human way. Try to avoid businessy jargon, okay? Show your passion. There's lots of ways that people do this. Like, I love Alexandra's title, Name Ninja, okay? UX designer, says Carissa, animal whisperer. I mean, you kind of want to be, interested in that person, right? Just by the basis. They don't put a dry title in their headline. You can put your dry title lower down in your profile. But they're putting in catchy things because people scan, you know, at 1,000,000 miles an hour in social media, and you got to catch them. Catching them with a nice picture that's very professional, head and shoulders is recommended. Don't go for the full body shot, trying to show off what terrific shape you're in. okay? Just a nice head and shoulders picture, smile, and say something catchy, say something interesting. The same way that you're at this conference today, and somebody might say, oh, you know, that's so-and-so from that bit. Wow, I would really love to know that person. And you wouldn't walk up to them and introduce yourself. Hi, I'm in charge of operational analytics and logistics at such and such company. It's like, I'm helping my company get, like, I'm one of the chief growth drivers at my company, right? I'm in charge of partnerships. Like, say something that what another person be interested in, like, how are you going to help me? Right? Always be thinking of the other person you're trying to connect with on LinkedIn, not just having the most precise and dry description of who you are professionally. Write a summary that is personal. A lot of people have third-person summaries. You know, George listened to everything his mother told him. George went to college. George got a job. George's like, don't do that. Do it in the first person, the same way you wouldn't walk up to somebody at this conference and go, hi, Beth is my name. Beth has a job at LinkedIn. Beth does this. You'd say, I do this, I do that. So use the first person, right? That really humanizes you. And detail your past work experience. Detail your volunteer experience. Gather recommendations and endorsements. Endorsements are those things where you'll get a prompt on LinkedIn asking you to list some of your skills. When you have a skill listed, it will then ask people that you're connected to whether or not they would endorse you for these skills. The endorsement of skills has turned out to be, first of all, highly differentiated. That does not exist in other media. A database of peer-reviewed and verified skills. So you can go out and say you have a lot of skills. You can list a whole lot of skills. Like I could list telemetrics, I could list aeronautics, etc. But I don't have those skills. I'm highly unlikely to have anybody who knows anything about telemetrics or aeronautics to endorse me for it. So they'll just be sitting there way down in the profile and likely never be surfaced. But if I get endorsed 10 times for knowing something about consumer electronics distribution, for knowing something about broadcast production, for knowing something about social selling, then LinkedIn sees it as a highly valid data point that is searchable and referenceable. So it's great for you when people are searching on LinkedIn, searching for particular skills. So say somebody needed a payroll analyst who is expert at businesses of employee size 20 to 50. They can find that when they're looking for that on LinkedIn. You, as somebody looking for people with particular skills, can do the same kind of searching. Or when you're, say, selling a service broadly, if you had a software product that was exactly built for payroll analysts, those are your beachhead group of customers. You can go on LinkedIn and, using our ads manager, search for the number of people in Canada or globally that describe themselves as payroll analysts, or maybe work in the overall function of HR or payroll, and make that an audience that you can advertise to. So skills, it's extremely important. I highly recommend that you list the skills, 10 of the skills that you think you can stand up proudly and say that people will endorse you for, and people will endorse you for them. And do yourself a favor, do somebody else a favor, endorse them for a skill. You know, the entire internet, entire data structure of the internet is based on the oldest human principle of social behavior, which is what my dad would call back scratching. At Google, so Sergey and Larry had a great insight in search. Some of the first search companies came from Canada, companies like OpenText. But there wasn't a reigning principle of what made things relevant. And these kids in computer science at Stanford, Larry and Sergey, said, maybe what's relevant is what other people say is relevant. And their algorithm biased for the number of links, what they call backlinks. And internally, they called it back scratching, right? And it is back scratching. This is a form of back scratching. So relevance, almost all relevance algorithms on the internet almost all algorithms look for some kind of a relevance. And the relevance is based on network signals. So a great way that you can build a network signal about you and about your business is the skills endorsements that take place on LinkedIn. Anybody have any questions about skills endorsements on LinkedIn? Yes?
I just wanted to confirm that it's still true that search results you rank based on
Based on what?
If someone's searching for recruiting as an example, recruiting is your one of your top skills that you've been endorsed for.
Guess they have this crazy box. Look at this. Ready? That's the talk box, or what do they call it? The boom box? Go ahead.
Long-time fan, first-time caller. The top skill there is recruiting. So are you ranking someone in search results based on their ranked skills that they've been endorsed for?
Yes.
Okay.
That's one of the major inputs that goes into search results. So, include volunteering. A lot of people don't put enough value on that. I've known all kinds of business opportunities that came from showing up to volunteer, but also people just going, wow, they were really behind, say, you know, a Boys and Girls Club or a cancer charity. That's my kind of person. I really like that. Like, it's really important to highlight that stuff. Don't be too modest about listing it. Even things like, oh, I'm involved in my local neighborhood association, or I am on my kids' school's parents committee. That kind of stuff counts, believe it. So there's all kinds of opportunities to highlight content that you're creating to explain your business. You can link those things in your profile. So say you made an ad. Maybe you just have it running on the internet. That's fine. Link to that. It will play in your profile. So when people have decided to check you out, they're going to go and see, wow, that's really engaging. As an employee of a company that's creating content for marketing, just include that marketing collateral in your profile. I mean, you're there to grow the business, either your own business or the business of the team that you're working with. Include that. When my son got a job at one of my favorite stores at Mountain Equipment Co-op, and I helped him build his LinkedIn profile. And he's still in high school. He's like, what do I need a LinkedIn profile for? And when I showed him, because he goes, it's so dry, I've got grade 11 advanced functions. Like, I shouldn't be on LinkedIn. But I showed him, and we put up some Mountain Equipment Co-op videos of the things that he loved. So climbing, hiking, backcountry skiing, and all of a sudden he's like, wow, this is so cool. And it's there as part of the permanent record. But he's had other jobs since then, but people scan down, they see that, and this video plays of mountain climbing, and he just thinks that's the coolest thing ever. So include that video, include rich media, include a presentation that you made. If you're really proud of something that you presented to some customers or to colleagues, etc., you can upload that presentation, and people will say, wow, this person really knows something. This person's got some information to share. So you can create URLs. This is around company page creation now, because that's individual profile. And now we're talking about your company page. So does anybody not know, or does everybody know what a company page is on LinkedIn? So you can create for yourself a company page. So you'll look in the settings at the top and just look for a drop down and create a company page. Or if you had a business with 5 or more employees, all of whom entered the name of the business, so say, George's Letterpress, and 5 people listed George's Letterpress, Toronto, Canada, LinkedIn is going to see that, and it's going to auto-create a company page, because it says, wow, this is a company. Everyone has a valid profile that's connected to that company. Somebody just forgot to create a company page. But that company page is a great asset. That's like your a page for your company on Facebook, for example. But this one, you can put in a lot more information about your employees and the skills they have. So people will come and research your company on LinkedIn, and they'll look to see how many employees there are and what skills those employees have. That is a huge piece of social proof if you're going to win new business or grow your existing business. People want to know that you've got people who have skills. So details in the About Us section, right? The company size, your website, etc. Okay? And then share the content that you're sharing elsewhere, that you're creating elsewhere. Share it from your company page. A good rule of thumb is to not just share from your company page, but share the same content from your own personal page and get your employees to do the same thing. Because people will follow companies, but people are human animals. they mostly follow what other people are up to. So you might post something from your company page about how you guys just won this award or have this fantastic new application, but you're missing an opportunity to amplify that if you don't get the 5, 10, or 15 people in your company to also share that from their own social profiles. It's a great amplification effect. And we've got all kinds of metrics that show if even at a company of 5 to 15, if the employees are actively engaging with other people, either in their partner network, in their supplier network, in their customer network, with content about what it is their business is up to, that has a social amplification that's about at least 100 times of what you can do if you just are posting from your company page. It really makes a huge difference. Go ahead. Where's that little blue thing? The catch box.
Here.
Hup. Ready? It's kind of awkward, isn't it?
Yes.
All right.
I notice a lot of the use of hashtags
Yes.
in your post and also posts throughout LinkedIn.
Yes.
But there doesn't seem to be a searchable tool for them in LinkedIn.
There is.
Is there?
Yes.
Where?
It's just probably, that's a user design feature that we've got to highlight more. You just have to scroll up to the top again. There's always a search box at the top.
Yeah.
Like if I could switch over here, and let's just see. I'll switch over to a browser if it will allow me. I want to be aware of my time, though. You know what? Let's just do this.
Uh-huh.
Am I still up on here? No. I'll just go back to this. Hang on. That was probably a mistake.
Sorry, I don't mean to derail.
No, I was
you
going to
from
try to just go
your-
live and just show you. I was prepared for that, but not as prepared as I thought. So you guys can, here it is. Is that showing? No, it's not showing. Let me just show you. Hello, internet. No, it's just going to come back. Oh, there. Okay, there. See right up there, top left?
Yeah.
Search up there.
Oh, all the way up.
All the way up. Yeah.
Not in the LinkedIn search, but the...
No, not the browser search, but
Yeah.
the top search up there, just above my face.
Yeah.
Search. So you search a hashtag.
Because,
search.
yeah, I have tried doing that, and maybe it was something I did that
But
didn't work.
if you search by hashtag, you will surface results of what
Okay.
people are tagging that way.
Okay, thank you.
So pardon me now while I try to figure out the best way to get back to this presentation. All right. Hello. Pardon me.
Sorry, I have that effect.
Has anybody ever seen there's a great joke on that goes around the internet? Abraham Lincoln does the Gettysburg Address in PowerPoint. Yeah. It doesn't go well. Okay, here we go. Back to there. All right. Sharing job postings. If you're growing and you're hiring, LinkedIn is a great source for hiring. You create a job post and then share it. Share it widely. And use the Life tab. It tells a little bit about what it's like to work there. So if recruiting is a big part of how you're growing your company, then share what it is like to work there and get other employees to talk about that. So now, in the few minutes I've got left, I'm going to tell you about the most important thing that you can do on LinkedIn to grow your business. And that is get involved in the news feed. There are groups. Groups are very important if you can find the right group. But there's tons of groups, and some of them are good, and some of them aren't. So just because you find a group doesn't mean you found the right place. The groups very much depend on the group moderator and how well that moderator is doing at keeping the group discussion focused, informed, and useful. But you can follow lots of content. We have a group of 500 influencers, world leaders, state and city leaders, business leaders, etc., experts in particular areas of industries, and they're sharing content, and you can follow them. And following them leads you to other people who are following them. And those people are liking and commenting. And that is if there's one secret that I can give you on how you can network and grow your business on LinkedIn, it's engaging in the news feed. So when you're on your phone and you're on LinkedIn, and there's that scrolling of articles that you're sort of interested in, and you see people commenting, right? Join the conversation. Or if you feel like you don't have something to say, like what they said, right? Like something that they posted or like their comment. I can't tell you how many times I've liked something that somebody who I am like 3 degrees away from, and they're in a totally other realm, and I thought, I'll never have a conversation with them. And they send me a message back, hey, thanks for your like on LinkedIn. Thanks for commenting on that. Hey, I see you know so-and-so over here, or I see you know something about that. And I mean, this is people like, just based on some content that I shared, a president of one of the largest multinationals in the world sent me a message, a direct message on LinkedIn, and said, I really appreciate what you had to say about that. That is not a rare occurrence. I can tell you there are many, many, many people who are actively engaging in the conversation on LinkedIn who are finding that is the most valuable thing they can do. So yeah, we'll tell you a lot, optimize your profile, and whenever you Google how to do better on LinkedIn, a lot of it is focused on your profile and your picture and list your skills, and all that stuff is important. But even if you had a bare profile that just said, this is who I am and this is the company I work with, or this is what I do as an independent entrepreneur, right? And then just went out and got super active in the news feed, liking, commenting, sharing, reposting what other people are posting. That is the secret to success. That is what is going to make you known and knowable on LinkedIn. You have a question? Sorry. Okay, I'm going to do this. I waive all liability.
I got it.
All right.
So back to your previous slide about groups.
Yeah.
I'm actually part of a lot of groups on LinkedIn, and do you have any examples of which ones are good? Because a lot of the ones that I'm part of have a very large number of people in the groups,
yeah.
And it tends to just be spam posts about like, hey,
yeah.
follow this link, do this, and then no one's engaging, no one's really active. Everyone's just posting things in the hopes that someone will click on it.
We should talk after. So LinkedIn had the tragedy of the commons problem, in that groups were very popular, and then they became very popular with spammers. So we really had to restrict. We used to push a lot of notifications to people, like join this group, join that group. But spammers went in there, and spammers are brilliant. They're really difficult to shut down. So we decided to make a lot more groups, a lot harder to discover a group, and just to count on people to sort of find a small network and manage their own group. So a group that I'm still pretty active in, which is social media marketing in Toronto. So a lot of us who are in there are actually active and gainfully employed in social media marketing. But then there's all kinds of spammers like join my affiliate marketing network who came in there, and they really polluted the place. Now I still go there and I still get notifications in my LinkedIn feed that someone's shared a post, it's like we're having a meetup or this or that. What I notice is a lot of people are splitting off and starting their own group where they actually know everyone else. And most groups now, their setting is by default, it is private instead of public. But I'll follow up with more on that. Sorry. Perfect. Go ahead. Oh, where's the box? We're going to wrap up pretty soon.
Just to build on that, though, if I'm looking at a group, I've discovered one or whatever, how do I evaluate it? You used to give sometimes there was questions about the validity of the data, but you used to talk about the demographic composition of a group, how active it was, and so on. And now, from metrics to evaluate whether the group is active or not, if it's locked down, I can't go inside to see anything other than the number of members to know when was the last post made and so on. So from a point of view of evaluating a group before I join, is there anything other than the number of members to evaluate it on now?
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a bit of a catch-22 in that you've got to get in there in order to find out. But then you can actively, pretty quickly get out if you don't want to get out and just go into your settings and leave that group and leave all group notifications. But it's kind of a conundrum because we used to surface a lot of information, and the more that people could see at a scan how active this was, when the last post was, how many people of a particular skill or discipline were in that group, then bam, the scammers and the spammers went in and just started polluting it. So the groups is very much an evolving tool set at LinkedIn, and we're trying to figure out the most optimal way to do it. Those people who are really active stay active and basically filter. They're willing to restart a group just to filter out spammers. And by default, not all groups are private. You have to be invited to join. So it's a challenge that you face when you keep a platform very open. There's a just extremely small subset of people who have way too much to say that's not useful to anybody, unfortunately. Go ahead.
So in the very beginning you said it's a door opener. You've made some great connections. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. You've made some great connections there to people you never would have been able to connect to.
Yes.
Can you give some tips or strategies that you've used once you are connected, how you've developed that relationship or gotten a meeting with somebody just through LinkedIn that you didn't know before?
So when I connect to somebody and I want it, so the question basically is, okay, so you can make a connection, but then how do you develop the connection so it's actually something more than just a one-time ships passing in the night on social media?
Right.
Social ships passing in the night. The best way is to basically, I just find, is flatter people, but do it in a non-obsequious way. So, it's just having, if they're active on LinkedIn and they're sharing content, then engage with it, right? Make a comment on it, right? Don't make the comment, hey, how come you never call me back? But, just find something. But also, a lot of people are active on a lot of channels. Like, it's not a one-channel universe. So find out what they're saying on Twitter. There's a high correlation, much higher correlation to people who engage on LinkedIn and on Twitter than people on LinkedIn and Facebook. People are saying the same thing on LinkedIn and Twitter. Maybe they're just mostly using Twitter because they love that large amplification. So Twitter, you go out to everybody, where LinkedIn tries to keep the relevancy to only people you're interested in. It doesn't do a lot of broadcasting. Twitter's a wide open broadcast to everybody. But what a person's posting on LinkedIn, they're likely not posting the same thing on Facebook. But you can go look and see if they're on Facebook. But a lot of people keep their profiles pretty locked down on Facebook for good reason. Now, there are some people who are actively self-promoting on Facebook like crazy, and that's fine and good. And if they're there and they're doing that too, engage with them there too. But if they start to see you showing up wherever they're showing up socially, but also just find out what events they might be going to. Like, some of my greatest breakthroughs in business success have because I went to conferences like this. I used to go to conferences all the time when I was growing a small business, because there's always that chance encounter, that elevator moment. Those things do happen. Back in the day when AOL was the king of everything, it's hard to believe, but that was not quite 10 years ago, right? And I went to, I had a sports media company, and I went to a conference, cost a lot of money. I couldn't justify it. It was taking even more money of the massively overloaded line of credit on the house. Went there, and as we used to say in the journalism business, doorstep Ted Leonsis, one of the co-founders of AOL. And Ted Leonsis was gentlemanly enough to actually answer the question that I had for him and make an introduction to a really important person in his entourage. And we got a great contract with AOL. I mean, those things do happen. You have to work at it. Somebody once asked me when I was in a totally different business, that iPod business, which we sold through high-end stores, how we got in so many stores. And I said two things: LinkedIn and literally not literally, metaphorically door knocking. And they said, well, how much door knocking should you do? And I said, well, until your knuckles bleed. Like, it oftentimes takes that long. But then when you finally get that connection and somebody from Crate and Barrel puts you into 358 stores, somebody from the Apple store puts you into 411 stores, you realize that those scars on your knuckles were worth it. So, are we out of time? Out of time? No more time for questions? What time is it? We can't take more questions? Really? I'm here all morning. I can take more questions. Go ahead. Oh, the box. The box.
Thank you. I ran a text ad on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And I got 22,000 impressions over 2 days, which was pretty amazing.
Yes.
Can you tell me how LinkedIn defines an impression? And then I wanted to also to ask you, how does LinkedIn feel now about connecting with people you don't know? So I know that there were always notices on LinkedIn, don't connect with someone you don't know. So just if you could talk a little about that.
So there's two different questions. The first question is about ad impressions. So an impression has been seen. So you bought an ad, a text ad, and you can buy these really effective, very cost-effective ads that with the same character count as a Google AdWords, and then target that against a particular audience based on geography, based on industry, based on job function, etc. Right? And she got 22,000 impressions very quickly. That means that 22,000 people saw the ad. 22,000 distinct LinkedIn members saw the ad. And you can go in and look in your campaign manager for the analytics, like by job function, by geography, who saw the ad. In the same way that when you post content on LinkedIn organically, so free content, you can go in and it will give you post analytics. You should try that and you can see who's responding to it. And it will tell you, say I posted a picture about BMO Connects and called out a few people and got some engagement, and it will say, hey, your post got 470 views, 27 likes, etc. Maybe it got into the thousands, and you can actually take a look at, there's an analytics chart when you click on it, it says see your post analytics, and it will give you nice little pie charts that show you who's engaging with your content. And then her second question was connecting with people you don't know. So if they're a total random from some continent I've never been to, never even sent a postcard there once, I might think, like, why do they really, really want to connect with me? If it's somebody that's, say, a second-degree connection or even a third-degree connection that looks somewhat related, and especially if in their connection request they say, I'd like to talk to you about furniture distribution because somebody endorsed you for furniture distribution, then I go, yeah, maybe, if I feel like it. If they're a second-degree connection that they seem to have a lot of overlap with other people in the network, it's kind of like being that kind of person who just brushes past you with the conversation. Yeah, I can't talk to you right now. It doesn't look that good socially. You don't have to, or if you want to do it too, because is your question more about, should I do it? Dare I do it? Yeah, I do it. I do it with people on LinkedIn all the time. And I reach out and say, look, we're not connected, but I would really like your help. Asking for help, people respond. People are, it's imprinted on their DNA to help. Why? Because it's that selfish altruism. You have to, we know in our DNA that if you help somebody, they might help you back. It's survival instinct. People are always reluctant to ask for help. I've seen some great results that come from asking someone for help. But the usual instinct in business is to say, hey, I've got something of value for you. So often it's like offering a value exchange. So when you make that connection request to somebody you've not connected with, or you're just sending them an in-mail on LinkedIn because you can't figure out their email address, or you figure it's a better channel for a cold intro, then just say, I think I have something of value to talk about with you, right? Would you spare 2 minutes, or could I send you a personal email about this? Another thing is just look to see if anybody that they're connected to is connected to you, either by a first or second degree, and ask someone to introduce you. So I am getting the yank off the stage. Thank you all very, very much for coming. I really appreciate it.